I've always found it hard to describe myself. One word can hardly describe a single person. Multiple words seem to get confusing, muddled, and contradictory. And who has the time to read an entire 5-page essay on a person? When you look at obituaries, there's just a series of facts, the nice words that anyone would hope to be described as. Since my life has been nothing but film and storytelling as long as I can remember, they've become a part of my identity. Some of these films are in my bloodstream, and the phases of films I enjoy perfectly lay out where I was in life, as aspects of myself change over the years. On the first day of classes, one of my film professors went around the room and psychoanalyzed us in 10 minutes with our 3 favorite films. We didn't know we were being psychoanalyzed, so the 3 films I picked didn't sway me in any way. So I told him Inception, Magnolia, and Jurassic Park. Inception was the film that sparked my interest in filmmaking. Magnolia was the film that made it feel tangible and cemented and furthered my interest in more personal types of filmmaking. And Jurassic Park is seemingly the outlier in my mind, but it was the first film to give me a visceral reaction when I first saw it when I was 5 or 6. My teacher found the connection of regret to be a main theme running through these films. Inception literally has a line of "filled with regret." Magnolia is purely about regret, which I already made a video essay on, and Jurassic Park again is seemingly the outlier, which he was able to stretch the same thing of regret with the main character of Alan and his sort of unfound regret with children, which he has a beautiful story arc with. I'm not stopping there, so those films make up my 3 core films, if there was such a thing. I don't think these films will ever waver, and I think they will always be my rock. But there are films coming out every weekend and new films of old that I will be watching to the day that I die. Sing Street was such a wonderful film I found right after high school. So the story about a kid trying to find his identity, forming a rock band, and making a music video all to impress a girl hit home. It's an Irish film, and I'm not Irish, but that doesn't matter because it's still one of the most relatable films ever to me. You could look at it about high school, filmmaking, making music, a story about family, more especially brothers, which of course I have an older brother just like Connor. If I keep going in order of the films I watched, the next film I consider a part of my identity and who I am is Only the Brave, another film I already covered on my channel with a video essay. This film was so impactful to me that I credit it to opening me up emotionally. It's a real machismo film, but in the right ways. The Last Picture Show came to me when I moved away from my small town in Nebraska to Los Angeles for the first time, and then back home for COVID. The Last Picture Show is about a group of high school seniors in a small, dying Texas town, full of old ways and sad people that never left. La Aventura grew on me over the years, but it was one of the first films to open up my love of Italian and French films. This one is much harder to describe in terms of relatability, but the visuals and the unspoken things that I picked up on are a part of me. Since this film is about the sudden or not so sudden disappearance of this girl and ends with zero resolution on that front, the existential questions made me rethink life itself. Then I found a French filmmaker whom I absolutely fell in love with his style named Eric Rohmer. My favorite film of his is one of his later films called A Summer Affair, about a somewhat timid young man suddenly becoming involved with several different women while on his summer holiday. This spoke to me on a personal level in terms of my relationships and my state of being, which was much more introverted at the time. 5 Easy Pieces was an early Jack Nicholson piece that spoke too much about family and music not to look past, and the latest film I added to my identity was Sex, Lies, and Videotape. Even if it doesn't need to be said, we're able to relate to people all over the world and in different countries. I think that's one of the most powerful things about art and cinema especially, the way it connects us through space and time. Now, there are other films and franchises that make up my bloodstream just about as much as these films, like Harry Potter, some of the James Bond films, and Damien Chazelle's first 2 films, but I feel like these films tell a story on their own. I was always a shy and hesitant person growing up, and I felt like there was never an easy fix for that. I found out that there's nothing you really can do other than keep moving forward, because I simply feel with age I've matured and slowed down. I feel like I'm much more certain about my thoughts and decisions. Although I wouldn't go as far to describe myself as an extrovert, I definitely don't have as much social anxiety as I used to. A part of that growth is from these films. It speaks to my interest not necessarily changing, but adapting and expanding. I don't relate to certain coming-of-age interest films anymore, but I still remember the feeling of doing so. So I'm always rewatching films like Sing Street and the Eric Romer films. These aren't just the films I'm interested in watching and making on my own. It's my personal confession, my identity. I make films about the truth of relationships.